Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with a reaction to Mr. Chris VanSant, former Delta Force operator, the hunt for Saddam Hussein on the Sean Ryan Show. So this is part one of a 2 or 3 part series of interviews that Sean does with him. So anyway, let's jump in.
Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Apologize. I think I'm fighting off a little something, so my voice is a little odd, but I'll do my best.
No worries. No worries at all. If you need to take a break, we'll take a break.
Appreciate it.
But a whole career in special operations, Army special operations, out of the unit. Now you're doing business consulting. You're really involved in the All Secure Foundation. I want to touch on that at the end. Actually, I want to do more than touch on that. I want to talk about what they're doing. But for this interview, I mean, you're just a really inspiring guy. I'm inspired by you. I know my audience is going to be inspired. And a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. A lot of guys coming out are looking up to people like you. And there's just a lot of knowledge to give. And so I want to kind of start off with childhood, why you got into the military, what your military career was like, and then get into some of the obstacles that you've overcome outside of the military as a civilian, and we'll kind of go from there. But real quick, at breakfast this morning, we were having a conversation about whatever you want to call it, the universe, and
or 25 conversations.
Yeah, and things coming back to you, you know, if you inject good in this world, things coming back, shouting things out into the universe, and then they happened. And, you know, it happened again right there at breakfast for me. I've been having, I think, maybe some heart problems and probably something I need to get checked out, a lot of heartburn. And my wife actually brought it up at dinner last night, you know, that could be something a lot more serious. You've been having a lot of heartburn. I'll be damned. 12 hours later, sitting at breakfast with you, and the very first conversation we have is that you just had 3 stents put in because they found some blockages. And these kind of things happen to me all the time. A positive one would be when I got engaged to my wife. I got engaged to her in Alaska, and I wanted to do it under the Northern Lights, not knowing there were seasons for that, not knowing anything. And we went there in August to do something with this guy, Jeff Reed. We did some content there and bringing out his story. And I told him what I wanted to do, and he said, dude, the Northern Lights do not come out
in August.
Yeah. And sure as shit, the second day there, we had run an Airbnb. I was going to pick the film crew up. And Jeff texted me, he's like, you're not going to believe this shit. The Northern Lights are on like full blast
for
right
like
now.
Once in a, yeah. Because every now and then they have an event, yeah.
Yep. And I was like, shit, I got to go pick the fucking film crew up. So I go pick the film crew up. They flew on separate flights. Second guy's flight got delayed. And he's like, you better hurry up and do it, because these things are usually out for like 10, 15 minutes and then they're gone. They must have been out for 4 hours, because I brought one of them back to the Airbnb, went to pick the other one, brought him back, The second guy just got back from Europe. He wanted to talk all about his trip to Europe, and I'm like, I gotta get engaged. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And so took off in the car, had no idea where I was going to do it. Probably drove around for an hour. Finally found a park. By that time, it's like 1:30, 2 in the morning. We're freezing our asses off. And she just wants to go to bed. And I get out of the car with the ring, and the fucking northern lights are gone. And I'm standing there. She's passed out in the passenger seat. And I'm like, please just give me fucking 5. Anybody up there, just pull some strings for me. I need 5 fucking minutes just to get this done. Like, we just had 4 or 5 hours of northern lights. I shit you not, man. Right back on. They came, went over, grabbed my wife out of the car, and
Woke her up.
yep. Hey, wake up. And we got engaged right there under the northern lights. And right after we got engaged, the entire sky lit up. And it was just like, have you ever seen them?
No, not in person, just videos. I've been in Alaska in the winter, didn't see him. I've been to Iceland, but we were there in the summer, didn't see him. So it's always been something I wanted to do, so I get it.
Yeah. So just total magical. And, but that you can't chalk that up as a coincidence.
Nope.
And, so I was just wondering if you want to share anything specifically. I know sometimes they're subtle for me, sometimes they're overpowering like that. But do you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've said for years, like, the universe talks to you and you have to pay attention. I think I've got better at listening as the years have gone by. But, like, this heart stuff is a great example. I've always known, so grandfather, father, brother, all had either heart attacks or open heart surgery in their 40s. So I've always been aware of the family history. But like most guys, particularly guys from the community, you know, I've not been the best about, you know, like going to the doctor and taking care of myself. I sort of did what we had to do to remain deployable or whatever they used to call it. But so now fast forward, you know, to post-career, when I got out of the service, I had some back-to-back blood tests that showed that my cholesterol was high. So I made an appointment, went to see a cardiologist. I was proactive. When I tried to go get referred out to a cardiologist in the beginning, they were like, no, you're a young guy, you're healthy, you're in shape, like, you're not going to have any heart problems. Why do you need to see a cardiologist? And I was like, no, you don't understand. And I literally had to, like, fight for myself, but I knew that that was a thing. And so eventually I ended up seeing one, got on some cholesterol medication, and you know, did a stress test every 2 years or so. And everything was fine. My cholesterol levels were good. Everything was good. But I was at work this past year, or just the year prior, and I started noticing that I felt funny. And it wasn't chest pain. It wasn't pain in my left arm. It wasn't heartburn, which is what my dad had when, you know, the precursor to his heart attack was heartburn. Not to freak you out, but something was going on, and I felt like something wasn't right. And so I listened, because too many times in my life, you know, the universe has said things and I haven't heard it, or I hadn't paid attention to it. And then after the fact, you realize, man, there were these signs that I should have paid attention to. But I paid attention to it. I won't say fully, but at least enough that I said these things to my wife. And between the two of us, we agreed that, you know, I needed to get checked out. Well, it ended up turning into a blood pressure spike. I ended up in the ER. They found nothing, told me there was nothing. But, you know, the two of us both were like, we need to pay attention to what's going on. So we pressed the issue, went to see a cardiologist, ended up with a cardiac CT. And lo and behold, you know, just like grandfather, father, brother, I ended up with some heart disease issues. So I had three blockages that were fairly substantial. Luckily for me, modern medical science is absolutely incredible. Over a space of about 6 weeks, I had a couple different heart procedures. But again, it's about listening and paying attention. And then furthermore, like that, in that course of events, which was just, you know, 6-7 months ago, I'd been in a career for 7 years post-service. That was great, working for a great company. But, you know, had a certain amount of stress, which was part of the equation. And because I know I need to pay attention to those signs, I said, you know what, I think I need to make a change. So I did. So 7 months ago, I punched out of what I was doing and stepped away after 7 years and decided to take a little break, and then started a consulting company, mainly because I love the defense industry. I love the end users that we support. And I felt like I had some knowledge and experience that maybe could help some companies, get good, innovative stuff in the guy's hands. So
It's crazy how one thing will lead right into the next,
It's awesome in terms of what he's doing and identifying that for him and then making the call to step away from whatever it was that he was doing. I was just trying to find a place or moment to insert. I'm keen to hear what he's into and what he's doing. And this one's only 2.5 hours or 2 hours, 27 minutes. So it's good that there's a part 2. Maybe there's a part 3. So, let's hopefully we start getting into some of, his whole journey into SF and what he's been doing post that time, etc. But heart trouble, family history, fighting for that, listening to the universe. Yeah, I think for me, in terms of those aspects and from a medical perspective, I don't even think I'm registered with a doctor or anything out here since I've been here, but I feel fine too. Apart from injuries, the only real sort of pain in the backside for me is that I think you have to be referred by a GP before I can get a scan or anything like that. So like my knee, as an example, I would 100% get a scan on that if I didn't have to go through the bloody hassle of needing to see a GP to get a referral or whatever it is. Maybe I'll go see a physio, but even then, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, I can't be bothered spending the money on that either when I can just sort of manage or feel like I can manage things myself. But maybe that's the universe speaking to me, telling me to get registered with a doctor, but I don't feel like anything's wrong. And I don't feel like I'm being guided or pushed that way anyway. Anyway,
are you happier now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you realize with any profession, as time goes on, as your duties and responsibilities increase, I don't think you realize the weight that you carry around until it's not there. So, there was an inherent amount of stress that comes with growth and chasing the next thing as a company in the defense space. And, we went from a few people to a lot of people, and it just wore on me. I think it was time for a change. So yes, I did. I felt lighter almost instantly. And I'm sure there's a myriad of reasons that went into that. I don't even begin to try or understand all of them. But I know that I definitely felt better, and it was the right choice.
Yeah. Well, every guest that comes on the show gets a present. So
Sweet.
Here's your gift.
Thank you, sir.
You got any guesses?
It's heavy.
It's got some weight to it.
It's got some weight.
Yeah. You want a hint?
Yeah.
Y'all let you ask a question.
One question?
Yeah, one hint.
Is it food?
Yes.
That's
all right,
no.
you can ask another one. It's legal in all 50 states. Believe it or not.
It's food, and it's legal in all 50 states.
You'll see when you open it. Go ahead, rip it open.
Why does legality of food have to be a thing? Oh, sweet. Gummy bears.
That's right.
So you don't know me other than what we've gotten to know each other, but my wife will tell you, like, I'm a candy hound.
Me too.
Like late at night,
Yep.
she's gone to bed and I'm watching TV. I'll bust out the gummy bears, the gummy worms. Yeah, totally.
That's right.
It's a hard case. I think DJ Shipley is a sweet tooth as well, and he got his. I'm definitely a sweet tooth. I've always mentioned that, but it's funny that he mentions, at night when the wife has gone to bed. Last night I was just munching away, ate a whole packet of sour worms, a large packet of those Naturals sour worms lollies, and they were good.
Awesome, dude. I appreciate that.
Not to contribute to your heart disease, but
It's zero fat. There's no cholesterol in gummy bears.
right on.
Thanks, brother.
My pleasure.
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do
But let's just dive right in. Let's start with childhood. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Dover, Delaware. The first state. A kind of a normal upbringing. I lived in the central part of the state, which is, a lot of rural farmland, small community, kind of everybody knows everybody. It's grown over the years, but it's still kind of the same. I can go home and go in the grocery store and see somebody I know, all these years later. Childhood divorce, but I say that for two reasons. One is to make people aware, but two, to say that, mine wasn't that bad. It had its moments, but both my parents remarried when I was fairly young. I think I was 8 or 9 years old by the time they'd both remarried, and I ended up with two other good sets of people in my life. My step-parents on both sides were every bit as much a part of my upbringing and my character and who I am as my mom and dad. Like, I say that as a positive. I think I had some fairly decent role models as a young kid growing up. So, played sports. Baseball was probably my primary thing. My dad was a college baseball coach at the time. I think I was competitive from a very young age.
Were you good at it?
I was a good ball player. I think that's where a lot of my competitiveness comes from. You didn't just want to be good at it. You wanted to be good enough to make the all-star team at the end of the year so you could keep playing ball. Like, there were a myriad of reasons, but yeah, I think a lot of my competitive drive and things like that came from athletics as a child. But moving into my early teens, I probably was a little misbehaved. I think some of it was just where I was. It's Delaware. There's not a lot of stuff to do. It's not like we had a big city or we didn't have mountains. We had the beach in the summer. But for the most part, as a teenage boy, you're just looking for something to do to pass the time. So
how are you misbehaving?
I think I started drinking pretty early. Just getting into trouble. Back then you didn't, if you did something stupid as a kid in the state of Delaware, when in that time frame, cops just drove you home. They knew your parents or they were connected somehow. So you didn't get arrested or charged with things. You just sort of got taken home. So I think I was fortunate in that respect, but yeah, I kind of survived all that, but getting into a little bit of mischief and being a handful for my mom in particular. Love you, Mom. I knew that I needed some structure in my life. So towards the tail end of high school, really my junior year, I think, is when I started looking at the military as an option. And it was for a myriad of reasons. One was because I needed some structure. Two was, as much as I wanted to go off to college and continue to play baseball, I felt like I was going to piss it away, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like that I think I was aware enough that I didn't have the self-discipline that I would have ended up screwing it up. And I didn't want to do that. And then I had military in the family. Both my grandfathers, my mom and dad's side, both served in World War II. And I always say my mom's grandfather, he was in the Army Air Corps, but he was in the Pacific Theater most of his time. Spent like 4 years during World War II overseas.
Oh, wow.
Which is a pretty substantial amount of time. Got into some trouble while he was in the service, typical young service member thing, particularly in a time of war. But I got him, I was the youngest of all the grandkids on that side of the family, and I got him at a point in his life where he started to open up as an old man and tell some stories. And
shit.
And I just happened to be like the one grandkid that was still around. So, you're sick from school, you go to your grandparents. It's a weekend and your parents are going away doing something, you go to your grandparents. So I ended up spending quite a bit of time with him at a point in his life when he started to share some of those things. So I got a lot of stories from World War II, probably some stuff I shouldn't have heard at the age that I was. But as I've said before, he always talked about that stuff, the good and the bad, with such reverence. Like it was such a part of who he was. And we're talking whatever that was, 50 years later or 40 years later or whatever, that I think it stuck with me. I think that pride of having served your country in a time of need, the people that were around him when he was in the service and what they meant to him, and his time spent, even though it led to some tough times afterwards, it was just so important to him. And I think that had an impact on me, and it's why I ended up in the Army.
Did you have siblings?
I did. I had an older brother. I do. I have an older brother that's 8 years older than me. So I sort of grew up like an only child, because, by the time I was, I don't know, I guess I was 10 years old, my brother was moving on to college. So
Interesting.
And then my parents remarried, and then my father had another child, my half sister, with my stepmom, and she's almost 10 years younger than me. So big, widespread, 3 different people. My brother's awesome, but we're like, I think because of that spread, we are polar opposites. Like we're 2 just different people.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I got a theory, but it seems like the majority of guys that wind up in some type of career in special operations are always the oldest.
Oh, weird.
But yeah, the majority of them from the people that I've interviewed are, but that makes sense. 8-year gap. You don't see a lot of close like siblings where the younger ones join.
Yeah.
But
That's interesting. Just hearing him in terms of Sean's observations and the people based on the people that he's interviewed. I wonder if there are any. I wonder if anybody's done any studies on, that type of stuff. I mean, I was an only child. I feel like I had a pretty good upbringing. Nothing, surrounded by things that I guess I just assumed were part of everybody's life. Family members that maybe made some suspect decisions, alcohol, family members smoking, drinking, all that sort of stuff. Some, probably some not so flash decisions, but I didn't see it as being anything that was different. I just assumed that what I was going through is probably what most other people went through. So again, I don't consider my upbringing to be anything super difficult or by any means. You got slapped around if you blinking and got a hiding if you messed up and didn't follow the rules and didn't pay attention, had to do chores and just basic simple stuff. I was an only child, so maybe I fit into that category that Sean was talking about in terms of them being the oldest, because it was just me. But interesting with regards to Chris's upbringing. It's cool how he acknowledges his step parents too. Unfortunate that his biological parents separated, but good that they remarried and that he's had these 2 other significant people as part of his life from an early age. And him acknowledging his type of upbringing. I think a lot of people also think that people that serve or that have made it into an SF unit have come from a really traumatic and super, super hard upbringing. And I don't think, that hasn't been the case for me. It doesn't sound like that's been the case for Chris so far, but we'll hear more of his story as we go, no doubt.
were you drawn to combat coming out of high school, or?
I think I was. Nobody's ever asked me that. I don't know that I thought about it like that.
Or maybe not combat. Were you drawn to being some type of a commando or at a high level?
Oh, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
were.
So, I mean, all jokes aside, we all laugh about this, but I grew up in the '80s. There were some good movies back then.
Yeah.
And a couple of them in that stretch were like the Navy SEAL movie with Charlie Sheen, the Delta Force movie with Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin. The old John Wayne, the Green Berets. Like, yeah, I think I was influenced by some of that. But also the point I was going to make was, all my grandfather's stories about being in the service were about being at war.
No kidding.
It wasn't like he had any like peacetime stories. Like they were all World War II, overseas, deployed at war. So that was my frame of reference, I think, from an early age was that's why you go do that. Because when the time comes, you need to go over there and do the best you can for your country. And I think I think it was definitely on my mind. And then trying to come in the service, yes, I had done some research. We didn't have the internet back then, but it was, there were books and things that had been written. And I think I did some homework and kind of found all the information I could. I had a buddy in school whose brother, I wouldn't say a buddy, but there's a guy that I knew that had a brother that was an Air Force combat controller. And so at one point we were talking and I had expressed some interest in going in the service, and he was telling me about this thing in the Air Force. And I was like, wow. And I was in Dover, Delaware, so it was an Air Force town. I'd never even thought about joining the Air Force. Like, it just wasn't I wanted to be a gun-toting, infantryman or airborne ranger or whatever. But he gave me it was like that old dot matrix printed, but it was the CCT pipeline, the CCT and PJ pipeline, and all the training that they go through. And I was like, wow, like that. I get to jump out of planes and scuba dive and sniper school and like all these things. I was like, they do all that before they're even like assigned to a position. I knew nothing about it. I just saw all that stuff and I thought that's amazing. So yeah, I went through a process. I went to see basically every recruiter and had conversations with them, and they were pretty entertaining. But I asked each one about its respective special operations and how do I get to that, and they were all kind of the same. It was like you have to pick a certain career field, and you can volunteer, and if you don't make it through initial training, like with the Navy, like if you don't make it through, then you go be whatever profession it is that you chose. Blah 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 blah. And I was fairly disappointed with all of those questions and answers. And then kind of at the 11th hour, the Army, an Army recruiter, not the one I had originally talked to, sort of came out and grabbed me and said, hey, I heard you talking, and can I show you a video and give you some info? And he knew a little more about the Army Rangers. And so, yeah, I was hooked on a Army Ranger contract, knowing that was my path to special operations because that's what I wanted to do.
Nice.
So different, man. Just listening to him speak, and based on what I've heard on other guests that have been on interviews on Sean's show and others, and they talk about the pipeline and the processes for getting in, and contractually not having a contract or needing to have a contract before they go on or whatever. I think DJ spoke about not having a contract before he went through buds and all that sort of stuff. So, and there's other implications that could happen to them in and around that if they don't get through. I still don't understand. It's a massive beast over there, but it's interesting. Very, very different to at least how it was when I joined the small New Zealand Army and the Australian Army, which is bigger than New Zealand, obviously, but still small in comparison to the US. But very, very different in terms of the processes. Sounds like there's a bunch of people within the US system and structure that are almost like maybe competing is not the right word, but almost sort of jockeying for position to try to convince somebody to come through their pipeline. Whether there's KPIs that they need to try to meet or whatever, I don't know. But that's what it sounds like when I'm listening to it. It's probably nothing like that. But anyway, how are we going for time? I think I'll wrap this one up here. It's a bit of a slow start, I'll be honest. I feel like I've been, and I'm happy though that I've been listening more than just butting in. But it seems like a little bit of a slow start to what I've been used to with Sean's interviews. But looking at this is number 51. So seems like, I don't know, I suppose early into his podcast and what he's been doing up until this point, versus some of the ones where I've been looking at, which have been, I suppose, more recent. But grateful for it nonetheless. It's great to see and get a bit of a feel for the evolution of the Sean Ryan Show and his podcast, and the amazing work that he's done with the incredible guests that he's had and that he continues to have. I don't connect or resonate with all of them. There's some there that I just stay away from and that I know that I'll never bother spending any time watching or reacting to. But I definitely like the military ones for the most part. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you very much for your time and for your support as always. Much appreciated. And with that being said, yeah, just any challenges, any difficulties, any hard times, dark times that you may be going through, or somebody that you know, I just encourage you to keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other and take one day at a time. Know that things can do and will get better as long as you want them to. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. So just stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.